Hello science fans and welcome to SHE-ensya's Corner. Here, we kick back, relax, and talk about science events that are exciting, scary, or fun in the life of your resident Filipina scientist. It's March 27, science fans. I am Shauna Camille Vinci Cruz Abeledo, your resident Filipina scientist, and welcome to episode 18 of SHE-ensya's Corner. So this week in quarantine, I was terribly distracted by the re-release of a 4-hour-long superhero film that depicted the formation of one of the most iconic superhero groups in comic book history. To be able to travel at the speed of light, Barry Allen, also known as the Flash, is a member of the Justice League known for his super speed abilities. There are many versions of his origin story, but one indicates that he got his powers after an accident in a laboratory. On a particularly stormy night, Barry Allen was angrily tearing his lab apart. Then suddenly, a bolt of lightning hits his laboratory and him, causing him to douse himself with the chemicals he was carrying. After 4 months in a coma, he woke up with super speed abilities. And from there, the fastest man alive decided to become a symbol and force for good. Science fact! One interesting aspect about Barry Allen is his ability to travel at the speed of light. Of course, this is a little bit debatable because published data would indicate that he can travel just above Mach 3. But the recent film and also some aspects of the TV series would indicate otherwise. Anyway, the speed of light in a vacuum is 299,792 kilometers per second, and in theory, nothing can travel faster than light. It was 1676 when the Danish astronomer Ole Romer was able to measure the speed of light. He measured the speed of light by timing eclipses of Jupiter's moon Io. Because both Earth and Jupiter revolve around the Sun at a predictable speed, and Io revolves around Jupiter predictably also, there is a point in time when the light from the Jupiter system has to travel an extra distance in order to reach the Earth. This causes a delay in the timing of the eclipses. Romer measured the delay and, knowing approximately the diameter of the Earth's orbit, made the first good estimate of the speed of light. Traveling at the speed of light would certainly be efficient. Imagine, we can actually start exploring the universe within our lifetimes. But if traveling at this breakneck speed won't end up breaking our necks or shredding us to smithereens, we might still have to worry about the mass energy equivalence. The mass energy equivalence states that if an object travels at the speed of light, which is again 299,792 kilometers per second, its mass will become just as large, almost infinite. Therefore, infinite energy will be required to move the object, which is, at the very least, impractical. But for a minute, let's imagine that we do have access to infinite energy. What would a person traveling at almost 300,000 kilometers per second experience? Our scientists predict that one would experience a slowing of time. Based on approximations, if a person traveling at 90% of the speed of light does something in 10 minutes, a stationary person would have experienced 20 minutes. Apart from that, one would experience a significant change in the field of vision. One would be able to see the world through a tunnel-shaped window. Even the color of the stars would change. The stars in front would appear blue because of their light waves crowding together, and the stars behind would appear red because of their light waves spreading apart. And after a certain speed, you would only see blackness because the wavelength of the light entering your eyes would be out of the visible spectrum. But even with all the obstacles of traveling at the speed of light, I bet it would still be the experience of a lifetime. Another character that struck my interest in the Justice League is Cyborg, also known as Victor Stone, who is half man and half machine. His body was destroyed in a tragic accident, but with the use of experimental cybernetic technology, he was given access to a large arsenal of weaponry and connectivity with the rest of the world, while also providing life-saving technology, of course. The most striking aspects of his technological gifts was how his cybernetic parts were able to communicate with his still very much human brain. After all, our brain is mushy and wet, very much organic, made of flesh and blood, whereas machines are hard and cold and are very much synthetic. But imagining that machines and computer programs can have the ability to interface with the human mind is not unique to the Justice League. There is a huge variety of literature, films, and TV series that predict a future where information can be easily downloaded from a network directly to our brains. But is this actually possible? Science fact. The average human brain contains about 86 billion nerve cells called neurons. And neurons communicate with each other and the rest of our body through chemical and electrical signals. Each neuron is connected with other neurons across tiny junctions called synapses. And impulses, or messages, run along tiny fibers very much like electrical wires that connect one neuron to the next. So every time you recognize a face, hear a familiar voice, learn something new, or watch a SHE-ensya video, millions of your neurons communicate with each other using electricity and chemicals, of course, through synapses. And it is this electrical interface that may make it possible for us to eventually download information straight to our brains. Scientists have even developed a method to amplify learning using an electric scalp cap. In the study done by the HRL Information and System Sciences Laboratory in California, scientists studied electrical signals in the brain of trained, experienced pilots. Afterwards, they fed a version of these electrical signals to pilots in training using an electrical scalp cap, and this improved their learning by at least 33%. At this point in time, uploading information is still in its infancy. More studies need to be conducted in relation to how long the effects last. So while the future for individualized information downloading is promising, it still has a long way to go.
I know Kung Fu.
Now, one of the reasons why I enjoy reading or watching superheroes is because a lot of them seem to have an affinity for science and technology. You have a playboy billionaire philanthropist tech genius who invent awesome machines and weapons, scientists and doctors getting into a bunch of accidents that give them superpowers, and geeks and tech savants making the most of their skills. A possible reason for this trope, at least according to Reddit, is that science accidents are somewhat believable explanations for gaining superpowers. And it is more interesting to have your heroes be involved in how they got their powers rather than it just happening randomly to them. But there are a lot of ways to become a player in the superhero game. And a lot of them involve using something you created with science or were exposed to while doing something sciencey. Of course, being a scientist or a STEMinist doesn't automatically make them into superheroes per se. Statistics, in fact, indicate the equal probability of becoming a supervillain. Either way, it's just nice to see an alternative universe where geeks like me can end up saving the world, look cool while doing it, and watch as the audience cheer. Because more often than not, scientists do save the world, but in the silence of labs and classrooms, burdened with administrative work and dealing with complaints and lack of appreciation. But we keep at it anyway, just like doctors, engineers, servers, cleaners, construction workers, and all other workers out there. Service is service after all, keeping the engine of the world running. So thank you to our day-to-day heroes, especially those who are risking their lives and their healths during this pandemic to keep our cities running. Maraming salamat po. And that's it for SHE-ensya's Corner this week. For more updates about the goings-on in SHE-ensya and your resident Filipina scientist, please follow SHE-ensya on Facebook and on Instagram. Drop by our website also at www.sheensya.com. You can also follow my personal IG account at shona.abeledo. I hope you were able to enjoy and learn something from our episode of SHE-ensya's Corner this week. If you did, I hope you can give this video a thumbs up and also subscribe to our channel. If you have any comments, questions, or suggestions, please don't hesitate to message me, your resident Filipina scientist, in the comments section below. Thank you very much, and see you around!